Hey everyone, it's Mitch Gatzke here for We Are Soccer Central, and I'm joined today by Luke Ruff, the head coach of Midwest United FC's USL2 side. Luke, how are you today?
Yeah, not bad. Thanks, Mitch.
Appreciate you joining us today here to dive into a little season preview for the 2024 summer season. And I think the first question that a lot of people have when we start to look at the summer season, talking about player rosters. And I guess I'll start with any returning starters that you're expecting to have back for Midwest this year.
Yeah, I think probably about 50% of last year's roster we've brought back. I would say a couple of standouts would be Jonathan Stout from Michigan State. Had another really strong season for them. They had a pretty solid season as well. We're bringing back one of our academy players, Gabriel Villagomez, who's going to Western Michigan this fall. So I would say both young, good West Michigan players that came through our youth system. We're really looking forward to having them back.
And where is it that you're pulling most of your players from? I took a look at the club's website. It looks like mainly Michigan schools, a lot of Aquinas and Saginaw Valley, which I know you've coached there before. So I'm assuming that's how you got those guys. Also see some Western Michigan. How do you establish those pipelines and keep them beneficial for the player and their college program, but also you guys at Midwest?
Yeah, I would say we always start by looking at Midwest United players. So we'll start with our current academy players. I coach the U19 MLS Next team at Midwest United. So we go through that roster and look at standouts from the last 9 months and make sure that we prioritize those guys and give them the best opportunity to prepare for their college season. Then we'll look at players that we've placed in MLS Pro clubs or in their academies and reach out to those guys and see what interest they have in returning to the club. And then we start to look at Midwest United alumni. That would be the next step, who are already playing in the college game, to see if they want to come home and play for Midwest United again. And then, like you said, some of the previous locations that I've coached at in the college game, that would be my next look. And then I coach Aquinas College right now, so I'm pretty familiar with their top talent, and they had a pretty strong season making the national tournament this year. So yeah, that's pretty much the steps that we take. And then the final one would be obviously looking at international players and top talent in the local market. I think we try to keep everything in-house in regards to players that have been through our system or have some connection to staff or current players on the roster. Just because they're familiar with our staff, familiar with me and the way I coach. And then obviously we are pretty loyal to our Midwest United people.
Yeah, so you mentioned that full academy setup underneath your team at in the USL2 level. How do you think, I mean, obviously that makes you quite a bit different from the other sides in the division. How do you think that that continuity, that togetherness benefits your guys' setup and how you look to approach fielding that full roster?
Yeah, I would say it's an advantage for us because they know the style, they know what our game model looks like, our playing style looks like. They're familiar with our athletic training staff, our goalkeeper coach, and like it's for me just a more like them coming home to be a part of the program, which is definitely what we want. Again, obviously, maybe some disadvantages that we don't tend to get players from outside of our network that some other programs in our conference do. Again, we tend to look locally. We don't necessarily house 40 players and look to build a roster that way. I think we have a long-term plan with USL2. Obviously, the ultimate goal is to win a national championship, but our short-term goal is to build a platform, build another layer to our club, and make sure the individuals that we have within Midwest United get the opportunity to prepare for the college game or move on to MLS Next Pro or get drafted. That's, I would say, our ultimate goal in the short term. And then long term is hopefully we build a national championship team that is built of Midwest United alumni.
And you mentioned a lot of guys are local, so you're pulling from Western Michigan and just guys around here. But I did notice some players from further abroad. How is it that you pull those guys in? How did you locate them, and how did you determine that Midwest would be a good fit for them?
I would just say network, just from working in the game a long time and friends reaching out to place certain players. I think that just the trust of what they know that we are looking for. We do want some senior players in the group. To give some of our younger players experience of what ex-professional looks like, what
Sure.
somebody that's really striving to be in the professional game, what that looks like. Again, we just want to sprinkle those players in, not be built around those players.
And correct me if I'm wrong, there are some players that you will be housing this year.
Yeah, we'll house a couple.
And how does that go about? Is it, volunteer families in the area, people who are connected with the program? How do you set that up?
Yeah, mainly host families, I would say, on especially on our USLW side, I would say it's mainly host families. And then we have some pretty strong relationships with colleges locally. So Aquinas College, Calvin College, that we have strong ties with them in regards to facilities and some of the sponsorship networking stuff that we do. So their contacts and networks that we try and use to get these guys housed and in environments they already know. Being in the college system, it's definitely more helpful for them navigating everyday life.
And you mentioned the playing style. Let's switch over from roster construction just to, in terms of playing style, any insight you can provide into how you want the team to play. You mentioned that the full Midwest United program is kind of set up so that the academy kids can graduate into those higher levels and have an understanding of what they're going to be asked to do. How do you set that up? And, just in terms of a loosely based structure, what are you guys looking to do on the pitch?
Yeah, honestly, I think obviously some of that stuff we keep internal.
Sure.
I would say that we want to play an attractive brand of soccer. We want to score a lot of goals. I think last season we had some good games where we scored 3 or 4 goals a game. I think super aggressive, athletic team is something that we build the core around. I think if you look at the identity of a West Michigan player, I think for us is somebody that's athletic, strong physically, and pretty dynamic and direct. So I would say that's kind of how we build our group around them. We play forward quick. We want to score goals, and then when we defend, we're aggressive, physical, and want to make sure that anybody that comes to our home field knows they're in for a tough night.
And you're a defender in your playing days, correct? So how do you think
Yeah.
that impacts the way that you look to set up the squad?
Yeah, I would say no doubt. Any former player, depending on their position, I would say structurally we look at the defensive side first. I think probably more critical of our centre backs from playing that role myself. But yeah, I would say just generally I look at the defensive side of the game more. I would say that's more my focus in our training environment, and then some of our assistants and staff will take more of the lead on some of the attacking concepts and build that into our training session and into game day.
And understanding that player availability is almost always going to have some kind of an impact at this level on a week to week basis. What is the formation or the structure that you're going to look to employ this summer?
Yeah, again, I think that just that will be determined by week, I would say, and by opponent that we're playing against. As you said, I think that player availability in the summer when you're not housing a flock of guys, I would say that it does become more challenging. But we're thankful that they're Midwest United players, so they know they're missing hurts the club, and that's something they don't want. So yeah, I would say that's a game to game decision based on availability. And as you know, with ITCs and registration and colleges finishing on different dates, I think the first couple of weeks will just be about getting points and building a culture and building a team that can be strong.
So adaptability, obviously huge. It sounds like you're going to tweak the system a little bit based on the roster. Do you think that presents a different challenge for you compared to some other programs that might have a set structure and say, hey guys, here's what we're doing. If you can fit it, great. If not, might not be a spot for you here.
Yeah, I would say so. I think that just managing the players and knowing what we have. I think we've put this roster together over a 9 month window. And as I said, I'm familiar with a lot of the players, or very familiar with either their college coach or their club coach. So I would say that just knowing all the players from a personal standpoint and them knowing what our coaching style is. I think as long as the players are bought into what we want and the game model and style of play, I think formations and structure will come from what we have available, but also the players buying into what we want. I think we want to get full buy-in from them, and we'll be in a good place come the end of the season.
And now that you guys have been in the division for a couple of years, how do you think that you're more familiar with what the other teams are trying to do? How do you think that will kind of help you guys as you look to really establish yourselves in USL2 Great Lakes Division?
Yeah, I think we know now. At least we know what the schedule looks like, how to prioritize certain games, how to build the roster, dependent on. Again, I think most of the coaches have returned this year, so I'm sure style of play will be pretty similar from what they've had in previous seasons. It seems like from player announcements, a lot of players that played in the league last year are back. So us knowing and being able to identify those players and not going into games blind will definitely help us. So yeah, I think just having experience in the league as a coach and then bringing a more experienced lineup back. Our young players having experience in the league last year, I think that's big for us. And then obviously from year one to year two, we made progression from points and wins and losses. So I would say that just that 2 years of experience, our goals gradually changing. I think the goal this year is to make the playoffs. I think last year was to be competitive in all games. Now it's to get to the playoffs. So yeah, I think having that experience in the league and knowing what certain coaches' playing style looks like and what facilities look like and what travel looks like, I think it's important. Obviously, adding another team in Michigan, it'll be interesting to see how that dilutes talent on the east side with bringing in another USL2 team. But all good players, all good coaching staff. So it's every game's a challenge.
Let's switch over to some off the pitch topics. I'm curious about the community aspect of Midwest United and how you guys engage with the community, any events that you guys have set up for the summer, and how you really introduce yourselves and continue to be a part of the Grand Rapids community.
Yeah, so I would say first, obviously internally, all we make sure we set up training to where we have certain nights that all players can attend. I think we do a good job of having coaches actually play in USL2 and USLW to really create that connection. Our academy players all work within our Future Star programs to give back to the little ones, which is pretty cool to see. Our USL2 players also do that on weekends. They get around the complex, around the teams. We train at the same time as the youth teams train, so they get to see those players train, which I think is pretty cool. And then obviously on a Wednesday night, we have a complex of 4 fields. So as training is going on, the games are going on, which creates a really good soccer buzz for West Michigan. And obviously, we want to get players from all local clubs in the community to come out and watch those top players play. So yeah, I would say that we do a good job of the marketing side and getting the schedule out to families, and then our USL2 boys definitely do a great job around the complex, just showing face, saying hi, and making those kids love soccer.
And so you mentioned there are some returning players and just kind of the continuity and the family aspect of it. Do you find that players are coming back after they've left you to move on to a different club? Do you find them coming back to visit, just say hi, kind of keep things going in a positive direction, keep that connection going? Is there any of that going on at Midwest?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I would say that as we track all the players through the college seasons, and I think that those are players that we look at as future coaches. I would say we track them and then bring them back in. I would say in college off seasons, you'd be surprised at how many Midwest United alumni jump in and train with my U19s. The players that finished college early this year have all been training with my U19 team. and just being around it and jumping in camps and clinics. So yeah, I would say that one, they want to be a part of it. I think they are excited about what we're doing, and I think they know that our ultimate goal is to try and get them in a better place in life. So if that's getting them in the coaching world, giving them an opportunity to get to MLS Pro, which we did with two players last year, get players into the draft. I think that's what we're looking to do. And again, trying to keep it in house and get those Midwest United families and players opportunities they may not have had somewhere else.
Absolutely. This might be a question better suited for Lewis, but any events or initiatives planned that we can help spread the word about you guys got planned this summer?
Yeah, so I think our big night on the schedule, which we did last year at Hope College, we have it is on May 22nd. We play at home. That's a Wednesday. We do club night and we bring out food trucks and different activities for the kids, and we open it up to all youth soccer players in the community to come out and just enjoy a night of good soccer. We play Oakland County that night. So I would say that's the main thing on the schedule that I know about, but I know we do all kinds of different things throughout the summer and in the community.
Let's talk goals for 2024. You mentioned player development, always going to be, I think, from what I've heard you speak about over the last 15 minutes or so, it sounds like player development is top billing. That's what you guys are most focused on. But obviously, you want to win. You mentioned the goal, make the playoffs this year after being competitive last year. How do you balance those two between player development and making sure you're doing right for the individual, but also making sure that the team is succeeding and seeing, wins on the scoreboard?
Yeah, I think it's challenging for sure. I think the academy boys, obviously, that we bring back already know what that looks like because I think MLS Next is built around the individual. I think if we our priority is obviously to place those players in pro academies, which we've done a really good job of. And sometimes that is at the detriment of wins. If you place last year, we moved four players to a pro academy from one of our rosters. That's going to hurt your team. So I think they already have that built into them. But I think that the way we run training sessions and how competitive we make them, how much focus and detail that they see in game prep and in the detail of what we want to do on game day. I think that's what they buy into, and I think all that naturally makes players want to win and want to succeed for the club. But I would say we never lose sight of individual development for winning or losing. I would say our priority is to develop the individual and get them into the program.
I think that's all the questions that I have. Before I let you go, I want to give you the opportunity. Anything else that we didn't touch on that you want to make sure to mention?
No, I think that's great, Mitch. Honestly, we appreciate it.
Of course, really appreciate your time. Excited to provide you the forum to hopefully reach some new audiences here on We Are Soccer Central. And I'm sure we'll be talking at some point later on this season. Thanks again, Luke Ruff, head coach of Midwest United's USL2 side. Again, really appreciate your time.
Thanks, Mitch. Appreciate it.
And good luck this season.
Appreciate you. See you, Mitch. Bye.
Have a good one.